everyone, welcome along to another episode of 420 News, and 420 News is brought to you by Martin's World, and I'm your show host, Martin Condon. And guys, just to remind you, if you want to support the show, if you want to support the fight for cannabis legalisation in Ireland, you can sign up to the patreon.com/Martin's World, or you can also make a donation in the form of Bitcoin through the link found on martinsworld.ie, which is the website just floating up above my head. So guys, I've quite a bit of news to get through for you today, so I'm just going to get stuck right into it and tear on, because I have a meeting there at 5 o'clock as well to get done. So hope everybody's good out there, guys. Hope you had them rolled up. I suppose, as I said, I'll tear into it, but after I pack up a bowl, it's been a while since I had a hit from the bong there this afternoon. So I think I'm entitled to one before I start the show. Guys, hope everybody's good. See some comments coming in there already from John, so at least I know the show is live and kicking out there on the online world. So I see people on Facebook and YouTube tuning in, guys. Welcome along to today's 420 News. As I say, guys, I will have quite a bit of news to get through today, but before we do it, we'll just partake in the 420 festivities. Yeah, we got one there, and we have an old source of ignition. And let's do this. Cheers, guys. Nice one for tuning in. Schlein that. So guys, the first bit of news today on today's 420 News, and it is a little bit of a headline correction after a cannabis patient was robbed. And yeah, this made the news there, I believe it was yesterday, this was in the headlines, and it was a cannabis patient. The headline actually said that the cannabis patient who imported €19,000 worth of the drug was spared jail. I corrected it for him because this is what I should have actually read. It should have read, a cannabis patient was robbed of his cannabis medicine valued at €19,000 and is given a 2-year suspended sentence by a bit of a judgmental judge. Excuse me for the cough. But Lloyd Pennant, who's 60 years of age, and he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis back in 2002, and he's unable to take injections to treat his condition when his blood pressure drops below a certain level. And Pennant, with an address above in County Louth, pleaded guilty at Dublin Circuit Criminal Court to importing drugs at Terminal 2 Alexandra Road, Dublin Port, on June 4th, 2019. So this is a case going back to just shy of 2 years ago, a long time ago, for a man aged 60 to be with multiple sclerosis. Like the stress and worry of dealing with this coming up. Obviously, it wasn't good for his health. I hope he's doing good out there. But he also pleaded guilty to possession of cannabis for sale and supply at the same time, at the same address. And he also has 16 previous convictions here, including convictions for deception, using a false instrument, and possession of stolen property. So, okay, the guy is a bit of a colourful past, but he doesn't seem to be up here for anything like where he done harm to somebody. But nonetheless, it seems like they wanted to bring up his criminal past to kind of tarnish him a little bit, and to maybe shed a bit of doubt there upon his using cannabis for a medicine. At least that's what I pick up off the article anyway. The Garda then prosecuting Paul Osborne told that on the date in question, Pennant was stopped by customs officials having disembarked from a ferry, and he was searched. The accused told the officials he was carrying cannabis. The cannabis was discovered in his hand luggage in 2 separate bags, and the total value was actually €19,800. So just shy of a kilo the man had. His client told the customs officials that he had collected the cannabis himself in the UK, and his intention was to use it then himself. So maybe he got it in the UK for much cheaper than what he got it in Ireland. There'd be no surprise if he was to get it for, I don't know, for... what would you get a kilo in Ireland for? Maybe 8 to 10,000. Maybe if he travelled over to the UK, he saved himself about maybe 2,000. It's worth the trip, even if it's only €2,000 he's saving himself by going over there buying himself a kilo. Mr. Clark said that his client was a UK national who was born in London but resided in Ireland for some time. He said his client had spent 5 months in custody on this matter. So this man has been in jail actually for the last 5 months on the matter. So while he was spared jail, he was still in custody. So, like, I don't see how he was actually spared jail at all. He's after spending 5 months. His client was diagnosed in 2000, but his doctors believe he has had it for a lot longer. Pennant also has kidney difficulties, and his kidneys are currently operating at 17% efficiency. So, yet they're hellbent in punishing this man who's clearly suffering like from what is a serious condition, multiple sclerosis. And cannabis, yes, cannabis is known to be very beneficial for people with this condition. So I think it's just it's horrendous that this man has, one, had his cannabis taken off him, but two, now he has a suspended sentence hanging over his head. He was sentenced to 4 years in imprisonment, was suspended in its entirety. So I actually incorrectly say here 2 year suspended sentence. He actually got a 4 year suspended sentence. Absolutely ludicrous. Like it should be the government to be held for account. The correct thing to be done here in this instance would have been the judge to say, I'm throwing this case out because there's going to be a bill before the government to legalise cannabis. Medical cannabis is kind of in this kind of whole mess, and I'm sick of it. That's what the judge had said, because there's so many people going before judges now who are patients, people who could benefit from cannabis access, and because of our bloody stupid ignorant laws, we're punishing them. Madness, absolute madness. So nice one, guys, for the comments coming in there. I see Graham Knowledge's Power adding in a comment that €19,000 is 950 grams according to the valuation of gardai, or 990 grams. Then he corrects himself afterwards and saying so. But yeah, like nonetheless, just shy of a kilo of cannabis. And do you know how much oil would he have got off of that, really? As a kilo, you get about maybe a 10% return. So he's talking about 100 grams of oil. If he was to take maybe 0.1 gram of oil a day, he's talking about maybe over a year's worth of medicine. I'd imagine he takes much more than 0.1 gram of oil to help with his condition, but I don't know how form he consumed it in. I'd love to talk to this man if anybody knows him out there. Try to send him my way and let him know. I'd love to pick up on his story. But in other news then, guys, it's a case I want to cover because, and sorry about the image popping up there, but it's a man was caught with €50,000 worth of cannabis back in April 2019, and he pleaded guilty in Limerick court and just recently because of this. But why I pick up on this is because of how long ago that case was. April 2019, again, just shy of 2 years. This man had to wait to face the judge, the court, for his crime of having cannabis. Now, in fairness, €50,000 worth of cannabis, all right, it's a large amount of cannabis, but look, who's the judge, all right? Like, the guy was ambitious. He probably thought he could sell it, maybe. But the photo that you've seen then here is the packages of cannabis that were seized. So this man, when he was arraigned at Limerick Court, Jerk Crawford, his name was his name, and he's age 60 also. So another 60-year-old man here, who pleaded guilty to the possession of more than 2 kilos of cannabis for sale and supply. The drugs, which had a street value of around 50,000, were seized during a joint operation, pardon the pun, involving Gardaí and Revenue Commissioners on April 5th in 2019. So again, over 2 years ago almost, and this case, you know, a waste of Garda's time, a waste of court's time, up before the court, and yeah, the judge, it's going to be put back again until March. So January, February, March. So almost 2 years. So if he gets sentenced now in March, that'll be 2 years from the day when he actually got caught with it. That's a hell of a long time to have to wait to see the end of your bloody case, and for, you know, to determine whether you're going to go to prison or not. Absolute madness, like, to think. And over something so simple like cannabis, something that hopefully will be legalised here soon. I can't wait to see the end of this madness, because geez, it is really frustrating to be reporting on these cases. Like, surely if you get caught with cannabis, like, it's done and dusted. It shouldn't take them any more than 6 months. 6 months. Like, if it takes them more than 6 months, they should be sending you a letter and say, hey, sorry we wasted your time. Look, we're not going to bring it to court because it's after taking us too long. We're obviously too busy with rape, murder, theft, you know, actual victims with actual crimes. But yeah, other news, guys, then, and it's back home to Cork City, where in Cork City a man was caught with, not a man actually, a young boy, maybe a young man, aged 19 I'd imagine, and a woman in her 30s were caught with €5,000 worth of cannabis. So this was below on Cove, and it was at around 9:30 on Tuesday night, I believe, where Gardaí stopped a car in Ticknock, so that's an area there in Cove. And a search of the car was carried out, and I don't know why they carried it out. Maybe they were suspicious of him. And €5,000 worth of cannabis was found in the boot of the car. Both occupants, a man aged in his late teens, so I'd imagine 19, and a woman in her 30s were arrested at the scene. I don't know, was she a bit of a no cougar, was she? Out there taking advantage of the young man with his big stack of cannabis. But they were both brought to the Garda station and detained under Section 4 of the Criminal Justice Act. The man has since been charged and is due to appear before the Mallow District Court on the 25th of February. And the woman was released without charge. That's what I found interesting in her, is what was the crack here? Like, was it all his cannabis? And she was just like, yeah, it's all his cannabis. And they were happy with that. If that's okay, fair enough. That's handy enough, I suppose, if you can get away with that. But again, file being prepared for the DPP, and the drugs being sent to the Forensic Science Ireland. So again, you've the Gardaí, you've the DPP, you've Forensic Science Ireland, you've the judges, you've the solicitors, all of this time because of cannabis. Come on, support this fucking bill there that Gina Kenny's going to be putting before the government soon. But even before that, guys, Frank Fian, like Minister fucking for Justice, Helen McEntee, put pen to paper and just decriminalise cannabis and decriminalise the drug user anyway, because the whole thing is a load of nonsense anyway. Like, it's a losing war on drugs. It really is. Like bringing into the next headline and why we should really decriminalise the drug user and why the war on drugs is lost, is there's now calls, and I covered this kind of story before, where they originally started a call for Irish Naval vessels to be sent to the west coast of Africa to help with drug patrols there. And this isn't a small cost to our state, you know, that this is quite a costly venture for our state to take part in, and fighting a losing war on drugs. Like, and why it's even losing, like in this headline here, or in this article, they talk about the Defence Minister, Simon Coveney, is considering a request to send Irish Naval service vessels to help drug patrols off the Western African coast, which has become the main supply route for cocaine trafficking into Europe and Ireland. And as the demand for drugs continue to rise across the EU, the estimated value of the market jumped by almost 50% to 13 billion in 2020, according to the former Garda, who leads Europe's primary anti-drug smuggling agency, the Maritime Analysis and Operations Centre, MOAC, and they're based in Lisbon, which is in Portugal, if you don't know. But the guy leading that then is an Irish on Garda Síochána member, ex-drug squad detective actually, to be even more specific, by the name of Michael O'Sullivan. And I mentioned him again in the show before, his name has come up, but he even mentions the fact that the cocaine market, which was once worth over 6 billion, has now ballooned into being worth like 13 billion. Like, if that isn't evidence as that the fact that they're failing at their job to do this, it's ridiculous. But all I see within this article, it's like, it seems like this ex-Garda Síochána member is trying to secure more money for their budgetary kind of whatever is there from the EU. And do you know that I think that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to say, hey, look, actually, if you give us more money and give us more access to these Navy vessels to stop the drugs before they arrive on land, because what they're saying here, and this is, once they arrive on land, the drugs get broken up into smaller quantities and distributed out, and then the authorities on land have to play catch up. But they're saying here, if you give us loads of more money, it makes us easier, because he says when you catch the drugs at sea, all the eggs are in the one basket, because again, all the drugs are together, big massive consignments. But again, it seems like it's just a money grab. Look, support us. But again, they're not talking about the fact that, like, the war on drugs has failed. The best way to actually protect people is to decriminalise the drug user and just really clean up the supply of drugs, so that these bloody really, really resourceful criminals who've gone and created submarines that can travel from South America to bloody Africa to the south of Spain and Portugal to deliver their cocaine and cannabis, mostly cocaine, because it's not worthwhile to be transporting cannabis across that journey. But that'll really go to show the lengths that the criminals will go, and how, like, just out of their depth our authorities are when it comes to doing anything about it. They're miles behind. They were miles and miles behind. And what Mr. O'Sullivan should be saying, like, he should be joining the people with the law enforcement against prohibition if he's really honest about his desire here to kind of like just stop all of the gangland violence that's associated with the cocaine trade, which kind of he talks about within the article. So again, I just think it's all about money. It's all. I think your man, Mr. O'Sullivan, he loves to play this game. Like, he sees himself, probably has some sort of an ego problem where he sees himself as this guy between drugs and protecting people, you know, and cops and robbers kind of thing. Really, but it's do you know what I mean? It's nonsense. It really is nonsense. It was just created out of propaganda, and his role in this actually just continues to enable the street dealers, the massive gangs, like, and until he speaks out against prohibition, he's failing at what he's setting out to do. He really is, and our Irish government will be throwing money away if they do it. And it's understood that Simon Coveney has held discussions with the defence chiefs to assess the Irish Naval Service's capacity to deploy a ship to the region. So again, like, you know, I mean, we've coronavirus going on, we've a global pandemic going on. Surely it's more in the interest to stop that pandemic than it is to be doing this. And again, if you were to really think about the pandemic and wanting to do it, you'd want to clean up the drug supply, and you want people to be getting their drugs from a person who's cleaning and sanitizing their hands. Because I can guarantee you, even though there's not many people out there now taking cocaine because of the change in nightlife and everything, you would want people to be getting their drugs, whether it be cannabis, whether it be LSD, whether it be MDMA, whatever drug of choice the person be, even alcohol, you know, when they do open up the pubs again, you want them to be getting it from a place where they're following the health and safety guidelines there to prevent the spread of COVID. And if we don't, like, once nightlife opens up there again, come like whenever it may be, maybe March, April, whatever it might be, like, if people start going and interacting without a proper safe access to drugs, like, COVID is just going to shoot up again. So decriminalise the drug user, clean up the supply of drugs in order to effectively fight COVID, you know? Other news, guys, and it's a transition here between going from Ireland now to the UK. But before we go there, we're going to talk about the Northern Ireland situation because of Brexit. So I talked about how Brexit was causing a problem there, transition period there for the patients being granted by the guys in Holland. But now it seems CBD suppliers to the Northern Irish market are kind of confused as to what's going on, because if you're supplying CBD products in the UK, you're not covered by the European regulations, but if you're supplying to Northern Ireland, you're still covered by those regulations but set out by the EU, which means that suppliers of CBD to the Northern Irish market still are required to carry out that novel foods application. So again, it's caused some confusion there, where some suppliers of CBD to the Northern Ireland thought that they would have been cool, we don't need to do this now anymore. But no, it's actually turns out that they still do. So the UK's deadline there for that for the novel food application is the 31st of March. And what I found very interesting in this article is it talked about the process, which involves submitting a 90-day toxicity data, which then Cannabis Health say can cost between £300,000 and up a CBD growing business and sell products. Like, do I have to come up with that kind of money? Man, that is crazy. Like, that really is going to set off a monopoly there within the market, I believe, if you can't supply CBD products to the market without this novel food approval, which costs 300,000 to $1 million. Look, maybe I don't know enough about this, but man, that is a hell of a lot of money in order to get approval to sell a product on the market. But let's see what happens there anyway in time to come with the approval of those applications and stuff, as none of them have been approved yet. So other news, guys, and it's coming out of the UK then, where we're going to go to Durham, where I believe I've talked about Durham before in the past, where in Durham the police force came out there and talked about having like kind of effectively decriminalised cannabis. And I've an article here to back it up, and the article's a couple of years old actually. So I'm just going to flick on over here, and hopefully this just comes up. Yeah, there you go. Like you see there, Durham has decriminalised cannabis, and about time too. And that was an article covered in the Guardian, I believe. And as I say, it's over 5 years old, gone from July 2015. So Durham Police Force there, they kind of said that they're not going to go after small scale cannabis growers anymore, and they were going to focus on the kind of large producers, guys involved in kind of massive criminal activity and what have you. So campaigners there, growers there, felt at ease, oh, we can kind of do our thing and have a little community there and what have you. But sadly, that wasn't actually the case, because there was a post put up there by Trevor Coleman, who, and I'm just going to clear off these messages, guys, by Trevor Coleman on Facebook that I was made aware of last night. And he put up a post and he says on the 25th of January 2021, he was sat at home when the front door was gently rapped. Naturally, he answered the door and there was no one there. As he looked down the back alley, there was 4 male figures standing at his back gate. He ran to the back of the house, locked the door, barricaded the living room door and called the police. Believing that the police would do their duty and not pursue a medical cannabis grower with no complaints against his name from his neighbours as per the policy of the region since Ron Hogg, I expected to be left alone, he says. And again, like Ron Hogg, he was the guy heading the police, where the Durham said that they're not going to go after these kind of growers. Again, your man, he's only just growing his own personal amount of cannabis. He tried asking what the justification they had, but they would only answer that it was cannabis. He admitted that it was cannabis and he was indeed cultivating and producing his own cannabis when he tried to explain that the charges detailed cannabis as a Schedule 1 substance with no medicinal benefit. We agreed it was wrong, yet he still proceeded under the Class B penalty as being illegal to cultivate. He tried to offer a defence to them and they would not offer evidence or verify any charges, as he has an FEI, Freedom of Information, reply from Durham PVCV, Stevie White, in response to the same 3 questions he asked all of the officers. And these questions were: 1, and these questions are from the Seed Our Future campaign, who I've lined up an interview there tomorrow with the guys from it. So seedourfuture.co.uk there if you want to check out that campaign. But these questions come from these guys, and it's 1: what is the foundation for the claim that all genus of cannabis meets the currently accepted criteria for a Schedule 1 substance in its raw form? As currently previously stated, it's not. It's wrong. Because up here it says it a Schedule 1 substance with no medicinal benefit, which we know that is wrong. Cannabis has medicinal benefit. Again, he goes on to question 2. Foundational evidence for the claim that cannabis is a controlled substance in the UK, and who is making that claim of control? Again, I don't totally understand this question, to be honest. I hope to clarify this with the guys tomorrow. And then in 3, the foundation evidence for misuse. I do understand this one because the drugs, like the charges being brought against the person, is under the Misuse of Drugs Act. And even my daughter said it when she seen a summons. She read at the top of the summons, misuse of cannabis or misuse of drugs. She was like, how do you misuse it, Dad? Like that's what she said. That was even her own kind of thing. How do you misuse it? So again, like 3 very valid questions here being put forward. And no officer, although admitting to the working under their attestation, would reply or attempt to find that evidence, including an email response from the Freedom of Information request stating, and this was from the 3rd of September 2020, "Dear Mr. Coleman, thank you for your reply. I confirm that the Office of Durham Police Crime and Victims Commissioner does not hold such information and therefore will be unable to provide you with any further response." So again, look, they can't answer the questions. They don't have any proof that cannabis, meets the criteria for a Schedule 1. They don't have any proof or evidence that of its misuse. And also the foundation evidence there for claim that cannabis is a controlled substance then, and who's making that claim of control. So again, a long post there going through it, and head on over there to Trevor's page if you'd like to read all of this post. I'm not going to go through it all. It's quite long, but I will just bring up some of the photos which are the aftermath of the police raid there on his property. So hopefully that will load there for me. There we go. It's loading up now. So you see here that they left it a mess. They just uprooted all the plots and plants, left all the soil thrown everywhere. You know, he makes claim there in his post actually, and you see the Wonka bars on the table, which are THC infused chocolates, and he says that some of the police actually took some of those bars and even ate them. So you see the mess. Look, smashed light bulbs, like no respect for this man's property. Absolutely atrocious the way the police just upscuttled the whole thing. You know, tore it apart, smashed the place up. Probably some repetitive photos here popping through. You know, just threw all his stuff everywhere, upscuttled his entire room. Looks like his entire cupboard emptied out here. Some ducting thrown around. Again, you see the cannabis pots. Again, the plants just ripped out of them. Plots left there. But actually, they say in the cops' defence, I've seen it before where the cops come in with Stanley blades and they just rip those tents to shreds. So at least they didn't do that, and those tents are still salvageable. But sadly, these bulbs are not. Maybe that ducting still might be. There's some pictures here as well of the plugs in a couple of minutes. Like you see that room there, it's just completely trashed. All the bulbs smashed, everything just ripped apart. Horrible. Oh yeah, you actually see it there. Look, actually, yeah, they did slash the tent. So yeah, you see slashes there on the tents. So fucking take back what I said there a couple of seconds ago. They did slash the tents. Again, like it's horrible. Imagine having to put all this back together afterwards. Like pick up the pieces, man. You'd be fucking suicidal, like wouldn't you? Be raging. And you see here like some of the plugs on the table. Like this isn't cheap equipment either. And the cops cut all of the wires. You see some of the wires pop up here now. You get a close up. Like you see here. Look, they cut the wires. Scumbags, absolute scumbags. All of this equipment just destroyed. Only fit for the dump, not to be reused by the hobby grower, the person growing his cannabis for himself, and not going out there engaging with the criminal gangs that are doing this sort of thing and kind of taking advantage of younger people, Vietnamese people. You know, just a person wanting to grow his own cannabis, and this is what he's faced with. You know, the police, the people there are supposed to protect him, targeting him, and it's just so fucking wrong. So I'm going to get off that there. So, you know, shout out to Trev. I hope to have a chat with Trev there in maybe later this evening. I'll see what happens there with that. But absolutely atrocious. I just wanted to bring that to your attention there in Durham, where people thought they had a bit of an amnesty going on, but sadly they don't, and it's unfortunate. And but before I go actually from this browser, I'd like to just bring up another video I have here for you. And this is a video from a raid in the UK, and it's coming from last year. I'm going to turn off the sound here, I think, just for the time being. But this is from July 2020, so this is from last year at one of the largest cannabis farms found in the UK. So I'll put the sound back on now. Boom. So hopefully you can hear that out there. A lot of work has to go into this setup, like, in fairness.
4 propagators in here. There's the big water butts which feed the plants. We've got more plants at different stages of growth again, all under Lumi Bright, Envirogrow,
Envirogrow, shout out to Envirogrow, the branded lights.
Plants at different stages of growth, all the way through this particular part of the setup. All the ducting is being fed through and into this area here, and then blown out from more than likely through the grow room below into this far room, where, as you can see, there's a substantial amount of plants in this room.
It's a savage old setup, in fairness, like.
Bud.
You man, on about the bud.
Coming up from the floor below, which could possibly trail into the main substation, where it's been made safe by Western Power, and all these cables will be running into these consumer units, fuse boards, etc. Looks like drying nets, which were obviously used for drying out bud, ready for selling. Fans and filters again. No air up here at all. Air quality is very poor.
I'm just going to stop it there for a second on what he just said. Like, does he not realise he's in a room full of plants those plants, like, okay, maybe the lights are all off now and they're after switching their photo period where they're consuming a bit more oxygen now with the lights off. But if those lights were on, those plants would be breathing out oxygen. Like that room would be filled with like some fine bits of fresh air in fairness. So he's just being a bit like fucking, I don't know, stigmatic and trying to make a big deal out of it. Maybe the air quality, it's like he's just smelling the terpenes and he doesn't like the smell of cannabis because he's just a fucking narc. But anyway.
It's solid. Can't get no air in here at all. Plants are very well established. Probably has 60 centimetres in height, but very mature in bud. And considering they're quite a small plant, there's quite a lot of bud on these, which will be stripped, then dried, put in the nets over there. And as you can see, it's just quite far back into the unit. And this is the living quarters.
This is what I was interested in here. It looks kind of like a fucking slaves' den, like, do you know what I mean? So not much of a place to be lived in.
The Albanian times.
The Albanian times gives you an idea of like who might have been in there doing the growing for them, you know. But I just thought that was an interesting one there to share with you guys out there. You know, just the footage of the cops going into that. Quite an extensive grow as well. You know, all of that cannabis was just destroyed, gone to waste. A lot of time and effort gone into it, a lot of energy, like electricity consumed to produce it. And it just goes to waste. Like, man, what kind of stupid creatures are we at a time when basically the planet is dying all around us? We're wasting things like this for some silly prohibition that shouldn't even be in place. It's only in place because of fucking corrupt officials out there and ignorance. Ah, man. But anyhow, we drive on to another story where in Scotland, a man tells a court that cannabis was for his dying grandmother, and it still found him guilty. And the media then went on to label him a drug dealer, and it's because he was caught with £1,000 worth of cannabis. And within this story, like in fairness, the man kind of cocked up or slipped up a bit, like when he told his social workers one story and he told the cops another story. So he told his social workers he chipped in with his buddies in order to get the cannabis, and they were distributing it amongst themselves. And he told the cops, actually, no, I got the cannabis for his grandmother, who has since passed away, who was dying at the time. But again, like, you know, and it's hard to believe because, look, this guy is a criminal now. He got caught with drugs, you know what I mean? So anything he says has to be a lie, obviously. But it's very likely he could have been getting cannabis for his grandmother while also chipping in with his buddies in order to get a larger quantity of it to reduce the price of it. Like, it's no secret, if you buy more, you get it cheaper, you know. But yet the media then, like, and I don't know the way the article's still up there. Like, yeah, I'm just going to bring up the article because I just thought it was really annoying, to me anyway, the way in which they treated the man in this article. So I'm just going to bring this up there again for you. So hopefully you're seeing that here. No, you're not. 1 second. Now, where's that browser gone? Boom. There we go. There it is. So you can see it here now where, like, a drug dealer busted with £1,000 of cannabis claimed that it was for his dying gran. Like, and if his photo there then as well on it, you know, like, just pictured him, named him, shamed him. Like, if this was some sort of kiddie fiddler or something, I don't know, but they do the same thing, really? Like, I don't know, do they? But it's ridiculous anyway. Like, this man, like, a drug dealer, he got caught with cannabis. Like, come on. Like, come on, I should say a cannabis salesperson who, you know, cannabis salesperson, cannabis buyer, you know, cannabis seller. I don't know, like, but drug dealer, in fairness, and sticking his photo up there, like, then, like that. There's people out there who will, like, they're vigilantes who could take this up wrong. Oh, drug dealer, geez, let's get this lad, let's break his legs, like, you know. Absolutely ridiculous. Like, he only got caught with £1,000 of cannabis then as well. You get down through the article then, head on over there, it's up on the Daily Record if you actually want to read it. But sentencing had been deferred for reports, and your lordship wanted to see about his grandmother's illness. He can confirm she has died since and have produced a public death certificate. However, like, the thing tore a strip off McCorn saying this is irrelevant and not the explanation he provided to the social work department. Oh yeah, this is where the confusion was. Oh, I should be down further actually. I wanted to get to the sentencing. So the sentencing, so basically he said that he was prepared to spare him jail by handing him a sentence as alternative to prison. So he placed him under mandatory supervision of the social work department for 1 year and ordered him to perform 160 hours of unpaid work for the benefit of the community. Again, the young man, he's only, 22? 22 was all he was. And he's now going to be bound to some sort of social care system or whatever that might be for a year because he had £1,000 worth of cannabis. In fairness, what a waste of time, like really, what a waste of fucking time. It's so backwards. And it really needs to change. Hopefully it changes soon. But people out there, oh, cannabis is illegal anyway, like, oh, you know, like, but come on, like, really, like, it's so stupid that it's illegal. It's a law. I really do condone people go out there and feckin' break it as much as you're willing to. And you know, we all do it in the secrecy of our own home. Like, but I just commend people who just get out there a bit more publicly to do it. So other news there coming out of the UK where cannabis plants, pictured here are the cannabis plants. And they were found in a village in Nottinghamshire village after suspicious power outages. No, I think that's rather suspicious. Like, you know what I mean? You look at the images here, and it looks like there's about a couple of rows of maybe six rows of plants, or 4 rows of 6 underneath, maybe 2 or 3 lights. In total in the house, they found 88 plants, and the cannabis disassembly team went in and disassembled the 88 plants. So they actually have a specific team dedicated to just going in, disassembling cannabis plants within the UK police force. I thought that was entertaining to read that. I can imagine the boys going in there all gunged up, masks on, like, you know, fucking madness. Like, but anyway, the cannabis disassemblement team went in there and they disassembled the 88 cannabis plants, and this discovery was made yesterday. And I question the suspicious power outages. I call it bullshit there anyway. I don't know. You know, like, come on, like, how much power can they actually be drawn to be causing power outages? In the article, they don't mention any like stealing of power or bypassing of power to be causing power trips or anything. So I don't know. Like, I think somebody snitched anyway. Definitely working off of a tip-off. But I don't know anyway. Power outages, suspicious power outages. I just can't see how a cannabis like little setup like that could be causing a power outages. So I just call it bullshit. Other headline then from the UK, which is that a mum who was stuck for cash, she allowed her house to be used for cannabis growing, and she was spared a jail sentence. No, I don't deny that this was a truthful story given by the mother, that somebody, you know, she was stuck for cash. She knew somebody, that person propositioned her possibly, you know, hey, look, you're out of work there, I'll give you a bit of extra cash if you allow me to use your back room to grow a couple of cannabis plants. And you know, she kind of agreed to it, and sadly she never received any money because the grow got caught. Her name Kerry Watson, and she was pictured here. She's a mother of I don't know how many kids actually she has, but it says she's a mother anyway, and she was spared a jail sentence. She was watering the cannabis plants herself. In total, there was 36 cannabis plants and a bunch of equipment, which the police want to say was a sophisticated setup, obviously. But you know, complete nonsense, like sophisticated. But luckily, look, happy days. The woman was spared a jail sentence, but she was given a community order. And she was also fined £80 in order to pay £45 costs and a £90 victim surcharge. So I'd imagine, like, yeah, she has a conviction now to her name for the cultivation of cannabis, and it doesn't say anything with the sale and supply at all. You know, she probably got something there for the cultivation, but not sale and supply. So look, happy days for herself. She won, and that was the best outcome really for herself in that situation. Unlike in the next one, where a Canadian man who travelled from Canada back to Singapore recently found himself in front of the judge. And a man by the name of, his name was Daniel Redmond Moore, and he's only 29 years of age. And sadly, when he brought a vape pen in his luggage in 2019, so this was going back a while back, so he was only up in court recently because of it. But he had a Class A controlled drug because cannabis in Singapore, unfortunately, is a Class A controlled drug, which can find a person in jail for up to 10 years and fined up to $20,000, which is maybe their own form of dollars over there. So I'm not too sure what that actually might be, but 10 years in jail, like that's a scary one. The cannabis vape pen, which had about 0.35 grams of a gel-like substance in it that contained THC, which was sufficient for only one dose, was hidden inside in a deodorant bottle, and his bags got scanned, and the cops said, look, we're going to scan it again because they seen a vape pen on it, but they couldn't find it searching the bags the first time. So before they scanned it the second time, he just handed it over to him, thinking he wasn't going to get too bad a thing, like, because he just came from Canada where it's legal. And he had the pen in as well for a kind of sensitive reason, which is that he says that he had a close friend back in Singapore who had passed away while he was over in Canada. And while in Canada, he was grieving quite badly. And a friend suggested, here, try this vape pen, it'll help, with just easing and with coping. And he took it, and it was benefiting him, so he took it back to Singapore, not really understanding like what he was actually getting into, bringing it back. And unfortunately, look, he's been found to go. He has to go to prison now for 16 weeks. Hopefully, that's not too harsh a stay for him. But look, nonetheless, it's much better than 10 years. But again, like, man, that's crazy. Something so small, 0.35 of like gel, 16 weeks in prison. What backward society over there. But look, he's lucky it wasn't 10 years. And I don't know that they still even have the death penalty over there in Singapore for that kind of stuff, like mad stuff. So guys, on with the news, and the final bit of news there is coming from the US, and it is that in Massachusetts, I have two more news articles, this and one more. In Massachusetts, where I mentioned the Cannabis Dispensary Association there last week in a news article, they were suing the Cannabis Compliance Association Commission, CCC, Cannabis Compliance Commission, I believe they were suing because of basically what they were saying is against the state's rules on like them being able to deliver their own cannabis, because the Cannabis Compliance Commission say, hey, no, in order to sort out this whole social injustice stuff, people with a certain criteria who meet who've been like kind of affected by the war on drugs or impoverished or whatever, they need to be able to set up these delivery services, and they were challenging that. Well, as a result of that, now they actually lost a lot of members, and kind of there was fallout in because of it, and they've now since dropped it. They released a bit of a statement in line with that. I'm not going to read the whole statement, but the gist of it is that basically the Cannabis Dispensary Association has determined it is in the best interest of the industry and our membership to drop the lawsuit against the Cannabis Control Commission. We all need to be working together on achieving our many shared objectives, including increasing the participation of a diverse set of entrepreneurs in the industry. There's a longer statement there that goes with that, but that was the most important part of it, that they all want to work together and try to kind of sort out the differences there with that. So happy days there. Seems like they kind of came to that's come to a conclusion, and they can get working on kind of productive measures and solutions to their problems. And then the final bit of news I want to close out on a positive headline there is coming from the US. It's that the newly installed Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer lists cannabis as a priority. And this was in a recent statement as part of the after the election stuff now and everything. where he lists like a number one priority obviously was listed as the environment for himself. COVID actually didn't make the list of stuff there in those mentions. Maybe it did actually, maybe it went without mentioning, but like the environment, and then next came social equality and injustice and stuff like that. But in that he was like cannabis reform, it clouds all of that. He said that cannabis reform is very much on the agenda there. So very positive things there, you know, from America, because again, as I said before, we have the MORE Act, which is the marijuana, Jesus, regulation and enforcement. Jeez, I can't remember what it stands for actually, what the MORE Act stands for, but marijuana something, which will effectively federally decriminalize cannabis in America, which would really send shockwaves across the world when it comes to cannabis and how authorities could look at it then, because America, you know, leads the way in a lot of things. And yeah, so hopefully that is a positive thing to close out the news on. Newly installed Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer lists cannabis as a priority. Of some statements here from himself. He says, when a young man is arrested with a small amount of cannabis in his pocket, he has a criminal record for the rest of his life. He can't become a productive citizen then, and this one won't hire him, that one won't hire him. We need to change that. He says there's lots to do and we have to succeed. So happy days. Look, seems like he's a man on a mission, and I wish him the best of luck on that. And I certainly agree with him that a young man arrested with cannabis in his pocket, it's very hard to be a productive citizen then. Even myself, my own experience, like it certainly creates a lot of self-doubt in yourself, not the fact you're a criminal, and like it makes you think about how others are going to look at you when applying for jobs and doing different things. So yeah, definitely I can agree with what he said, and I can relate to that opinion of his. So guys, I had other news articles lined up for you today, but I have to go now because I have a meeting at that started at 5 o'clock. I've already ran over 5 minutes. But before I go, I will shoot into some of your own comments that have been popping in. I've been kind of trying not to get too distracted by them as they're coming in, but it is great to see them coming in nonetheless. I show really get a show producer in here who should be going through them and bringing stuff to my attention as it's coming in. But look, I'm one man, and feck it, like the show goes on for an hour as it is. And yeah, I have to sort something out anyway. Like I am taking notes. But guys, thanks very much for all your comments. There's loads of them there. I don't think I'll be able to get through to some of them at all. Connor says that there was no sound there, so nice one for that. But look, I commented my way through it. There was subtitles on the video as well, so you did get to see those subtitles hopefully. Others coming in there. Teresa saying hello, and John is saying hello. Sean is saying hello. Hello guys. HM Suffer 193, yeah, nice one there. He makes a comment on Twitter, but I think it's a bit of a spam, but he's on about getting followers. Nice one there for the Twitch comment. Other comments, Mustawez, he says they have lost the plot with that Navy suggestion. They only want to keep their own schemes going. As I said, it's money for the boys, do you know what I mean? They're trying to grab at money that's coming from the EU, and money that's there within our own Navy as well, kind of tied up with the deployment of ships and stuff like that. You know, it's just money for the boys, and to kind of big up their own organizations such as MOAC. You know, if you do away with if you decriminalize the drug user and clean up the supply, and there's no longer criminals like submarining cocaine across the ocean because users of cocaine can now go down and get it from a regulated, controlled source, MOAC goes away. It does, it goes away. And the likes of Michael O'Sullivan, like, you know, he's going to sadly have to focus on other criminals such as rapists, murderers, thieves. What harm in that? There's some lovely filth down here coming in from YouTube. Nice one for the comments. He says, pay the nurses a fair wage would fit them much better. I 100% agree with you. So many amazing nurses out there, tremendously underpaid, such as the student nurses going out there operating in the current pandemic. Man, such sinful stuff going on out there. Like, really, just don't get me started on the waste of money within our own society in fighting this war on drugs, and how we could be better using it like, for one, paying our nurses, regulate cannabis, tax it, and put a portion of that money there to paying the student nurses a fair fucking wage for the work that they do, because it's amazing. Had a many amazing conversation with student nurses and when I was in hospital myself. and I couldn't get over the fact that they were working for nothing. I was blown away by it. I really was blown away by it. But look, nonetheless, it is what it is here. Politicians don't make too big a deal of it, sadly. They make more big a deal of drugs and shit like that. That, because it's propaganda. Still no can card up here, despite it being in the rest of the UK. Once again, we lag behind everybody else and the likes of the DUP and policing up here. Well, in fairness, I see that Carly, who kind of has been the person leading the can card, she only received her can card today. So it seems like there's issues there with the Royal Mail. It seems like there's issues with the can card system, with printing the cards, getting them out there, posted out. So it seems like there's issues right across the board, and I still haven't seen really any agreement there from the UK, or sorry, from the Northern Ireland police force, the PSNI, in supporting this. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when the cards do get out there. I do call on patience when they get them. Like, let's get out there and start engaging in some civil disobedience. Like, let's start challenging the authorities with this stuff. Like, let's just not hide away with them and wait for them to come and search our pockets. That'll be my opinion on it. Sean adds in here, pricing people out of nature. CUNTS. I agree with you, man. Yeah, no, it is complete bollocks. Legalise it, like, regulate it, whatever, but let our people grow 100%. Like, don't limit a person's ability to grow the plant themselves. Like, limit their ability to sell it. Yeah, definitely, if you want to do that, but to grow it themselves for their own personal use, no, I don't agree with that. Regine Wolfstone adds, what about damage to personal property? Yeah, there's definitely, I'd imagine you're on about the case there with Trevor, maybe. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of personal property being damaged. Trevor as well there, the guys is suing the cops in the UK. Just to remind you of that case, Trevor, he's a campaigner with the See Their Future campaign, and he's bringing them to court. He's going suing them for destruction of his property, for terrorism, for theft, for a number of things there as well. So I will hope, I look forward to catching up with him on the show very soon. Other comments coming in there from Sean, just getting the propaganda on film for future cops to get brainwashed with, and that's in relation to the video. And I agree with you, definitely they're certainly looking to get the propaganda on film. Some lovely Phil down there says some difference between the big illegal grow they probably should be going after and wrecking all the gear of some poor guy just growing a bit for himself. Yeah, that's true, man. You see the video there where the massive grow operation, like they didn't destroy all of that gear. They just took it down and took it away, I'd imagine. The grower, they just destroy it and leave it there then for him to deal with, for him to dump, to put into his own rubbish or whatever you can do with it afterwards. But in that massive operation, I don't think that they go in there and destroy stuff. I'd say they take it away and try to sell it actually to maybe commercial growers and stuff like that, or maybe give it to them, donate it to them, who knows. Christian Jad's in any word from Gino. Yeah, I got word from Gino that the bill will be submitted in June or July, but that his talks will be held next Monday, where I'm not too sure if the bill is going to be discussed or publicised, but I hope he will publish it before June or July. But it will be submitted by July, and that's coming from Gino. That's the latest update on that there, but again, that isn't breaking news really or anything like that. I do look forward to the event, guys. Just to remind you, Monday 8 o'clock, People Before Profit, Gino Kenny, find it on Facebook and stuff. I will hopefully be able to stream it live through my own Facebook page as well if you don't get a link from Gino through his own Facebook page. So do definitely keep an eye out for that Monday night 8 p.m. The Gino Kenny's People Before Profit case for ending cannabis prohibition is the title of their event. And final comments coming in there then again, guys. Exactly got caught first time growing at 17 and had name in papers because court case was when I was 18, and that's coming in from Hype TCK from YouTube. So he was 17 when he got caught growing cannabis, but because he was 18 when he was brought to court, his name is put in the court cases. Like that's bollocks, man. That's just for growing a bit of cannabis. Come on, white name and shame a person. I'd be proud of it, in fairness, if they put my name in the paper for growing cannabis. I'd be very proud of it. Like, yeah, look at that. Look, there are my plants. But at the same time, I'd be gutted because, oh, there are my plants. Shit, I didn't get to harvest them or what have you. Like, but like, yeah, to be a young person, man, it only adds to the pressure. I hope you're doing good now. hype. And final comment then from Dave the Rave. Go on, Dave the Rave. Glad to see Dave the Rave out there. And he says, Outlaw Limited from Manchester, going about it the right way. And I 100% agree with you. Shout out to Outlaw Ltd in the UK. I'd love to get him on the podcast to have a conversation with him. I've certainly reached out to him numerous times. Maybe he just doesn't want to do the interviews and is interested in his own media. But if anybody's got a word in there with Outlaw in the Manchester in the UK, tell him I'd love to hear from him and have him on the podcast for a chat, because I'm very much inspired by his form of activism, which is very much civil disobedience based. So guys, thanks very much everybody. I'm really going to have to go 15 minutes late for that meeting, so much love guys, stay blazed.